happy that you are joining us today for SheBoss. We have a very special guest, Ambrosia Patterson, and fun fact, this is probably the most nervous I've been for any SheBoss interview.
Seriously?
Seriously, legit.
Why?
I don't know, just because you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I was trying to tell my husband last night, he's like, well, what's the big deal with Ambrosia? I'm like, I don't know. She's just a big deal. I'm like, I think if you're a woman who aspires and just is looks to admirable women for motivation, like you are definitely one of those.
Well, thank you.
And a lot of the women that we feature on SheBoss are that way. But I've loved the chance to get to see these like different sides of you in different environments.
You're making me cry already.
We haven't even started
yet.
I know. Don't cry yet. But it's been really interesting watching your story sort of impress upon different environments and groups of women since you've been here in Huntsville. And my exposure to you has been very minimal, yet it's already been so impactful. So thank you for what you're doing. So
thank you.
Yes, this is Ambrosia, already crying within 30 seconds. We win. No. We're so thankful for carving out some time today. So we are sitting at the FBI facility, which is amazing.
Thank you.
On Redstone Arsenal, and we're going to get to all the amazing things about you and your background and all of that, but just share with us a little bit about what your role is with FBI, because you've had a little handle in making some things happen over the past couple of years. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my official title is Change and Transition Program Manager for FBI Redstone. I like to refer to myself as the Kool-Aid man or the Kool-Aid woman, I guess. And really, it's kind of a twofold thing. I'm serving both the people within the FBI and the people outside of the FBI who are looking in any capacity. So for the people within, maybe they're up in the National Capital Region, maybe they're here, and they're trying to understand what exactly it is we're doing here. So I help them see the vision, learn about the mission, learn about the strategy and where they can fit into it. And then for people on the outside, this is a huge move for us. We are currently at 1,800 people here, and we're going to take it up to just under 4,000. So you can imagine, that's a big move, and not everybody in the National Capital Region who is being asked to move here is probably going to come. Some of them have really legitimate reasons not to come. So some of it is just facing outward to people who might want to apply, help us, fill the gap as we make this move and become part of the FBI family. But just pouring Kool-Aid all around for everyone, but in a respectful way.
Yes. Well, and the fact that you have sort of change agent, you know what I mean, in your title, that in itself is you're already walking into potentially a difficult role, because you're having to convince a lot of people to uproot their lives that they know it and move down to a city that, fortunately, unfortunately, how you look at it, not a lot of people are familiar with Huntsville and really know about the vibe here. So how has that been? That challenge have been to try to influence folks to come down to a market that they're not familiar with, which, oh, by the way, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, FBI and Huntsville are now sort of number 2, right? This is like the number 2 headquarters for the FBI outside of Quantico, which is huge. Mm-hmm. My family that does not live in the Southeast are like, that just doesn't match up. So talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, So my journey here starts way back early in my career. I've been in the FBI since October 2004. And I like to think that I would have ended up in Huntsville no matter what. I only got 2 phone calls when I was applying for jobs. One was from the FBI and one was from NASA. So I think both of the jobs were in DC, but I feel like this was just meant to be in a weird way. And, I'm embracing it now, but when I first got the call from the FBI telling me that I needed to move here, it wasn't something I was super excited about, to say the least. So,
when you applied with the FBI, did you know that the potential could be to
absolutely
move to
not,
this?
absolutely not. I think
they're like, we'll save that for later.
Yeah, I started in DC and was there until 2019, and it was probably in the 2005 timeframe that I became aware that this was a place. Made my first trip here, but I grew up most of my time in the FBI working in the budget realm, so dealing with all of the money for the organization, and there's a lot of resources that have been poured into this place. I
read that it's the single largest investment in the FBI is this move to Huntsville.
I've been saying that, and I feel like it's
like $2.5 billion or something.
It's $3 billion.
Okay, so it's gone
$3 billion.
Up since the article.
Yeah,
Holy cow, that's a huge investment.
Yeah,
in the
I think
FBI
probably that article was before we got our most recent appropriation. So, formerly being the budget officer for the FBI, the SES in charge of all of our money, I have a pretty good handle on how we spend all of our money, and hands down, minus what we pay to our people, the resources that we have to build this campus, thanks to Senator Shelby, are, they blow anything else out of the water.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah, my journey here started really full on in 2019. Got the phone call during the government shutdown from my bosses saying, basically move or find a new job. They said it in a nicer way than that. And that was really hard for me. We were redoing our kitchen in our house in Springfield, Virginia. I tell this story all the time, but I can just still remember that day getting the phone call. And my husband works here as well. He got a similar phone call at the time. So that was really where my change and transition journey started. And I always knew I wanted to do something in that realm, had the budget job. It was amazing. But talk about opportunities to be a change agent. What we're building here, it blows any other opportunity out of the water. So in my role now, trying to pour that Kool-Aid for other people, I've received the Kool-Aid myself. And I wasn't very, I'm being honest.
Sold initially.
I wasn't sold initially. This was definitely a big discussion point for us. I think, the whole last name of Alabama, honestly, is a difficult thing to work through with our people, but we really find once we can get them here, once they can come see the art of the possible, and we put a lot of resources and time and energy into that, you usually see people flip on it, and they actually end up really loving it. And then, all of their family follows them here, and they just have amazing lives.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What was there any one thing for you that really sold you on Huntsville? Looking back?
Gosh. So I think of life in pictures, right? So, and I was actually thinking about this weekend because it was Memorial Day. So when we did our house hunting trip, I wasn't even really sold when we said that we would come, that this was going to be the best idea for us. Because, it wasn't just moving me and my family, it was moving my entire section here. I was one of the first leaders who moved not only myself, but my entire team. I tell people this all the time. We had 36 people, only 4 of us came down here, including myself. So full on tear down rebuild. That was very, very difficult to do. And I really owned passing that message along to the workforce. But back to my moment. So I will never forget this. It was Memorial Day weekend in 2019. We had come on our house hunting trip, and I wasn't sure coming into the trip. And during the trip, we found this amazing house, and we were down at Yellowhammer, the grass between Yellowhammer and Straight to Ale. And we saw a realtor there with her husband, and we're just kind of hanging around with the kids. And she walks up to us, and just picturing this in my mind, she looks so chic. She's wearing this really cute romper, and I've got on a cute little dress, and everybody's just, out and about being cute and having fun. And I look over to the mountains where our house is, and I'm like, I wish that I lived here right now. I wish we didn't have to leave and go back to Virginia. That for me was the moment of like, this feels like home.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you have a mixture of people that environments that are new, your kids there, you know what I mean? Like all of these different elements kind of blending together, which I think depicts a beautiful life.
Yeah.
In a city that maybe, I love how you look at things visually. I'm a very visual person too. I'm like, if you can just get inside my brain for a second, it'll all make sense.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, though, sometimes maybe not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. So what has been, so kind of flash forward, that was in 2019 that got you here. Out of curiosity, did you end up finding your home on Memorial Day weekend when you were here? Was that the home that you're still in now?
Yes. So my husband did a lot of Zillow research ahead of time. He picked out 6 houses that he thought would be good for us to look at, and the house we ended up buying was one of the 6. And it wasn't the house that I thought we would go with, but I know in my heart, I'm probably not going to live here for the rest of my life. I've got other bigger plans beyond, to take my ventures forward. But this will always be the home of my heart here, hands down. Just, it is a beautiful place. We can see the Arsenal. We can see the mountains. I love it so much. Yeah.
How was the move on your kids, moving them down?
Yeah, so my son was going into kindergarten that fall when we moved, so it was a good time for him because he really wasn't settled in anywhere. He was 5 when we came here, and my daughter had just turned 1 when we got here, so it really wasn't a big deal for them. And I mean, my kids, anybody's kids are their heart, right? And I'm no exception to that. And for my son specifically, this move, I really believe, saved his life in a lot of ways. He was only 5 years old, but he's had a lot of academic difficulties. He's on an IEP now at Jones Valley Elementary. If anybody from Jones Valley is watching this, you guys are freaking amazing. Like, just the best school. Mrs. Boykin, I don't know. But yeah, you know, he was so young that he didn't really know the difference, but had we stayed in Northern Virginia, I think he would have gotten lost in the system up there. And the amount of support that we have received and that he has specifically received from Jones Valley to Silver Linings. He was at Montessori School of Huntsville for a while. It's just been remarkable to watch him learn and grow. And my daughter as well. She's not going to have some of the same challenges that he does. She's already like trying to teach him how to read, and she's just turned 5 years old.
Watch out.
Yeah, she's a pistol. Yeah.
I wonder where she gets that from.
I don't know.
Well, and it's amazing to hear from another mom too, who's, you know, kids they face a lot of challenging things. And with the past couple of years, especially with COVID, and you hear a lot about the education gap and all of that. I mean, that's been a challenge just from an academic perspective with kids, you know? I mean, I don't know about you, but we had 3 kids, you know, that were in school at the same time at the time, I think when we had 8th grade, 5th grade, and then like 1st grade or something like that. And for my youngest, that was really, really hard. And having the available resources here, both from a academic and also a mental health perspective is huge. Because those 2 things oftentimes get overlooked when you're dealing with just one or the other. You know what I'm saying? And especially with kids, I mean, that can't be an area that goes missed, you know. It's so important to pinpoint some of those things. Silver Linings is a great organization.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing. So talk to us a little bit about working with the FBI for as long as you had. I would imagine that you're a bit of a minority being a woman in this role. I may be wrong at that, but out of curiosity, I would just love for you to talk a little bit about that. But you also mentioned too that here at this campus with this facility, you have a lot of women in leadership as well.
We do.
Which is amazing to hear. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about that and a little bit about your journey sort of working up the ranks with the FBI and some of the challenges that you faced throughout that.
Sure. So definitely we met one of our construction amazing ladies out in the hallway before we got started here. The construction of this campus is led by an all-female team. There are males on the team as well, but all of the leadership is female, which is absolutely awesome. So my journey as a woman in the FBI, you know, I think you heard me talk at WEDC. So the whole theme there was working in a male-dominated place. And I truthfully can say that I have not felt dominated by males since I've been here. And I don't know what weird set of circumstances put me in that position, but I truly have not had difficulties here with that. I've had personal problems with people, men and women, but I think anybody faces that in any workplace. But I really and truly have not had the squash that some women feel of male domination. And from the beginning of my career, I mean, starting off as a GS7 budget analyst right out of college, I was given crazy access to stuff immediately. I think a lot of it had to do with the role I was in. So I was working with oversight to bring money into the FBI. That's a really high profile gig, but you know, we would have meetings with the director all the time. I can remember being like 24 years old, sitting in the back of the director's conference room and just being like, how did a girl from, you know, small town, Ohio, West Virginia get here to be able to do this? So I think I had some really incredible bosses, and they were just super supportive to not only me, but everybody else on our team. And really just, you know, they never thought of it as like a male versus female, or even many of us were very young at the time. You know, it was really just about us and what our minds and hearts could bring to this organization. And I think that's a big part of my success and how I was able to reach the heights that I have been able to.
So tell me a little bit about that path that you took in school, because I mean, this being sort of your first job out of college, right? I mean, I don't want to say that the planets just aligned. I mean, there's a hustler behind, but there's a hustler behind the scene who's got to be putting some of those pieces at least in the same lane, right?
I don't know.
Well, just talk to us a little bit about that.
I mean,
what were you like in college?
I feel like I've just stumbled into things, right?
Like,
so
here I am.
Like super small town, dirt road, you know, people drove their horses and tractors to high school. No joke. I did not do that, but other people did. And I don't know, I think it was senior skip day. My dad I asked him if I could take senior skip day, and he's like, yeah, if you apply to some colleges, you can take senior skip day. So I applied to some colleges, got into Case Western Reserve, which is an amazing school in Cleveland, and just kind of, I don't want to say I floated along there, but I also had a lot of difficulties when I was in college. My grandmother, who I was super close to, passed away I think that was during my sophomore year. My dad presented with brain cancer, which was super difficult to deal with when I was away from home. So, I never had any internships or anything like that. The most I did in college was worked at our country club swimming pool back home. I managed the concession stand at the swimming pool. So when the FBI called, this was another seminal moment with my dad. My parents bought me a car my senior year of college. It always comes in the senior year. And my dad was like, I'm not going to pay for this for you, forever. You need to find a job. Okay. So I gave my friend my resume and she sent it out to some people. And I never applied for jobs. I just gave Heather my resume and got the 2 phone calls, like I said, from NASA and the FBI. The FBI
Who
called
does
first.
Heather know to get you 2 calls from
Heather
NASA?
Heather is an
Just
amazing woman. She has been one of my best friends forever. She's an attorney up in DC.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we're still really close. But yeah, she just farmed it out to some people she knew, and I just fell into the FBI. So I really my archetype as a human. This is probably not something you're going to hear from a lot of FBI people. I love tarot cards, and the archetype of the Fool tarot card, just kind of going off the cliff. That's really how I view life. Just take a step off and see what happens. And if you crash, pick yourself up and dust yourself off. But
that's a great mantra to live by.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a time when that's backfired?
Oh,
not to jump immediately, but I'm curious.
I think my answer to that would be that I don't think there's ever a time where that philosophy backfires, because you're going to fall into a mess that maybe you needed to learn a lesson from.
Yep. Okay.
That's my take on it.
Yes. It's funny that you said that. I was like, I wonder if she's gonna say it's not a mistake. You fall forward, but in that environment you learn so much.
Yeah.
And you're going into it with a very vulnerable mindset, and in a mindset where you're a constant learner.
Yeah.
So then you're in a safe space when you're able to do that.
Yeah.
I think, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What's been the scariest leap that you've ever taken with that mindset?
I think probably the move here, because it was in the middle of the government shutdown in 2019 that we found out about this, and I had my daughter in October of 2018, in May of 2018. I applied for my SES job and got it in October of 2018. I was only in that job for a few months before they started to talk to me about Huntsville. So taking that much change on, house renovation, new baby, new job, leading all of the money for the whole FBI, $10 billion plus, with this really amazing staff, then getting the word that I needed to move all of them and myself and all of these super critical functions to this new place, that I like the chaos. I really do. But I think, and I'm never going to mind being in chaos as a human being, but I think the thing that made it the scariest for me was that I had to feed that chaos to other people and bring other people into it who don't have probably as high of a tolerance as I do for craziness. Yeah. That was very hard.
Well, and you probably put a lot of trust in the unknown. I mean, there was a lot of trust and I would imagine there's some hopeful trust, right? Like, we hope things are going to work out, and we hope you're going to love it.
Yeah.
And but you don't really know how everybody's going to react to that, which I would imagine that's got to be a very heavy thing to carry.
It definitely was. And again, carrying it during the shutdown when we were 30 plus days of not being paid. We come back from the shutdown. I'll never forget this. My mother-in-law made a bunch of food that I literally wheeled around in a cart around the J. Edgar Hoover building to feed to people, like, hey, welcome back from the shutdown,
Here's some food.
But I'm carrying this information with me. And I think we were back for 2 or 3 days. I gathered them all into a conference room. And, usually with big moves like this, I think the rumor mill is rampant, right? Like, are we on the list? Are we off the list? My people had no idea, because I had said to them before, like, I don't think we're ever going to move. There's no way they're going to move us. We work too much with Department of Justice and the Office of Management and Budget. We can literally walk across the street to go talk to them. There's no way we're going to leave the National Capital Region. And they take us out. So giving that to people was extremely difficult. And I think for me, the big lesson was realizing that not everybody has as high of a tolerance for that kind of just chaos as I do. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm dramatic and I love to complain and I get all spun up about stuff, but I think ultimately I handle it really well. Yeah. it was a really difficult thing for all of us to go through that.
Yeah. Have you learned anything? Like looking back, going through all of that, is there one thing that sort of sticks with you that that you constantly remind yourself of, or something that, I don't know, anything that just sort of comes to surface when you think about that change?
So I think, again, it's the visual. It's looking in people's eyes. I told each one of them that they were going, and we had individual conversations. I had individual conversations with each one, and I will never forget the looks in some of their eyes. And I'm not going to name them because I don't want to call them out on this podcast, but some of those memories I will carry in my heart forever. And when I feel like I need a boost or a reminder of why I'm here and what we're doing, a lot of those looks in their eyes are things that I go back to. Don't screw this up, because
that's the driving force for you a little bit. Yeah.
You brought other people on this journey.
Yeah.
The FBI brought all of us on this journey.
Well, and if that isn't, not that you don't already have this, but if that isn't your daily motivation to succeed, you know what I mean, and do things that potentially you just got to do whether you like it or not, you know what I mean, to help appease others, you know what I mean, who you've sort of sold on the Kool-Aid, if you will.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I talk about the Kool-Aid, but just like the vision that our leadership all the way up to Director A has for this campus, tech, analytics, advanced and specialized training. I mean, it is just mind-blowing thinking about the things that we're putting here and the way that we've done it. I think it would have been really easy to just throw all of the underperformers onto the Alabama train and send them down to Alabama. And that is not at all what we did. We have such an amazing method to the madness that, of course, I can't get into with you here, but just the strategy behind it. And when we present that to people, I talked about the looks in my employees' eyes. The other thing that I think about is the looks in prospective transferees' eyes when we walk them through the strategy. We do that in this room all the time. And just watching them flip on, oh.
So that's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing. This makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can jump on board with this. It's very exciting.
I mean, and I know Alicia was helping us a little bit, on the way over here, just sort of visualize what was being built and what's here. And I personally have had just a little chance to get, behind the gates, if you will, through leadership and stuff like that. But that is merely scratching the surface of all the amazing things that are happening here. Yeah. And to think, not a lot of people realize that, this is the number 2 home for the FBI.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of amazing things happening here that people are just, they just have no idea.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a little bit more about your personal journey too, but if you can just share, what are a couple of the 2 or 3 things that people are most surprised to learn about what's happening here behind the gates with the FBI?
Sure. And one quick thing to correct, you mentioned Quantico before. So our number 1 will always be everything that's in the National Capital Region, not counting Quantico. So like right in downtown DC, J. Edgar Hoover building is the home up there. Quantico, and we have a fingerprint and biometrics facility out in West Virginia. For a long time, they were both in kind of that number 2 spot, but FBI Redstone, once all is said and done, is going to overtake those 2. So never fully overtake what's in DC, but we'll be the second there. So sorry, what was your question?
Amazing. No, that's amazing. Thank you for that. So I was curious
unknown things
about it's just like about the cyber training facility here. There's just so, and then I think this is the place where most people come for testing, right? And for explosive testing, and maybe not necessarily with the FBI, but I don't know if there's a role there that the FBI plays, but there's just so much cool stuff that's happening here. Yeah. And I know the FBI's got a huge handle on a lot of that. So
I can't pick a favorite. It's like picking your favorite children, right? So Hazardous Devices School, where all state, local, federal bomb techs train. That's been here since 1971.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
That's a huge piece for us. Our ballistics research facility is here. So another place that's really providing, amazing ballistics research, not only to partners around the country, but really around the world. They have a beautiful purpose-built facility here on the campus. All of our Terrorist Explosive Devices Analytical Center, or TDEC, resources are here. So, folks doing research on IEDs, and then, just pretty much anything in the FBI, you name it, it's located here, which is something that I really love to tell people. No matter what you want to do, this place presents a really great opportunity for you to find that thing and to advance in your career as well. You're not going to come here and be stuck in a job. There's lots of other opportunities that you could circulate into. So, you name it, it's here. Counterterrorism, intelligence work being done, analytics work, tech work. A lot of our engineers and other technicians from the operational technology group are coming down. So yeah, the cyber
So much cool
piece.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that you and Alicia were so sweet to spend some time with my daughter who was just trying to figure out what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people realize that anybody can go into not anybody, but you can go into the FBI. I mean, based on whatever undergrad you have, it's not like you have to specialize in something.
No,
right? So
not at all.
We do have a lot of college students who are looking to get internships or work in this field.
Sure.
What would be your advice for someone who maybe have an interest in the FBI, sometime in their career? Any advice that you would have for someone young?
So number one, don't do drugs. And number two, don't lie about anything. If you've done anything, just tell them and, just be honest, right? But yeah, I mean, on the whole degree piece, I like to hire people who have a wide variety of academic training, perspectives, life experiences. The guy who brought me into the FBI, he was a physics major and he ended up being a budget analyst. How that translates, I'm not really sure, but I think it's not just the educational background, but also the life perspective that you bring, and that's a big priority for us here. We want good. I don't know how to say this. We're dealing with some of the most difficult situations in life, right? You think about the areas that the FBI works in and things that we ask our people to do. I think for us, it's not just about the education, but just we really pay attention to the human experience, and you are bringing those human elements into your job, whether you're working investigations, casework, you're working with victims, you're doing back of the house jobs, like my job and Alicia's job. We really look for that combination of both in people.
Okay.
Being a good
combination
person.
of hard and soft skills and all of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. Okay. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit and kind of talk a little bit about your personal journey.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've been fortunate enough to see, again, barely scratching the surface, is this creative side of you.
Yeah.
So you like to draw, you like to do graffiti.
Yeah.
Notebook graffiti.
I like to write my notebook graffiti. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ambrosia and I are both members of the WEDC, which is the Women's Economic Development Council. And you spoke a couple of weeks ago talking about, creating your ethos, which I loved so much. And I've shared that with the team, and they've seen what that looks like. And that was something that really stuck with me, because I don't think that we as individuals, and specifically we as women, really think about that on a regular basis. And you've also, I think this kind of dovetails nicely into, you were on the Sundial Rider Corner not that long ago, and you talked about how, we create our own ceilings, which I loved. Yeah. So just talk a little bit about that aspect and what you mean by that, and how that mindset and that understanding has sort of driven you and fueled you in your career.
Sure. This is funny. So yesterday, with the lead into that question, it makes me think about my yesterday. So I love to clean. That's when I do my best thinking about writing and graffitiing, when I'm cleaning toilets in my house, whatever. And
has it always been that way for you? Like cleaning equals thinking?
I think it does.
Mental productivity?
I think it does, because you're physically moving and then thoughts are just flowing into your head. So I'm cleaning yesterday, and my husband, who never helps me clean, started to help me clean yesterday. And I was like, dude, you're like getting
just
into
in my way.
My space. You're not folding the towels right, whatever. But no, so cleaning is definitely the time that I do all of that creative thinking. And I guess, so say your question again. Now I'm going off.
Yeah, well, you talked about how we create our own ceilings, and we're the ones sort of putting barriers to development or growth. Yeah. And I'm just curious a little bit about, when you think about, your ethos and you think about your creativity and your outlet, how does that maybe help you combat some of those ceilings or face some of those challenges that maybe you put on yourself? Like, where does the driver for having an ethos really come from for you, and why do you have that to begin with? How did you really find yourself there?
I give my dad a lot of credit for that. He was a writer as well, and I think just having those mind expanding moments of, I am not just here to clean the toilets in my house. I feel like we're here as humans to help one another along and help ourselves grow and advance as much as we can. And the growth and advancement doesn't have to be loud all the time. So I think that's why I really like to write and graffiti, because it is an inwardly focused thing that maybe just helps me become a a better human, less, all of the negative things that humans can be, jealous and possessive. And I'm a Scorpio, so I have some of those tendencies sometimes. But
and does doing that just sort of let some of that out?
I think it does. Yeah. I think it does. It gives me an outlet, because this job that I have here, and the jobs that I have in my personal life, raising my children and being a good wife and being a good friend, all of that requires a lot of just pushing energy out into the world. And I think sometimes, how do I say this? The writing and the graffitiing kind of help me channel some of that energy so that I can give my best to other people that doesn't come out as a complete psycho stream of madness.
Yeah. Yes. What does that practice look for you? Is it a daily practice?
It is. And my planner is off screen here, but I'm a big fan of the Savor Beauty planners. Anybody who's seen me usually sees that I have a book with me. If Angela J. Kim would like to partner with me and let me design a planner, I would not mind. But that planner has really, really helped me. And it's, for me, I'm kind of a weird mix of wanting to put things into boxes, but also just blowing up the box and letting everything fly everywhere. So I think doing block scheduling has really helped with that, and actually blocking in time to be creative, which sounds kind of anti what creativity is. You just let creativity flow in. But I think for me, finding a specific time to do it has been really helpful and has helped me come up with some of my better work, I guess.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So if you can talk a little bit more about that. What does your creative time typically look like?
Usually in the morning. I like to get up at 5 a.m, and I'll do a weird mix of, work email, personal email stuff, and then having some time to write. And I think something that I really just realized probably within the past week, it all doesn't have to happen at one time. Even if you just do 10 minutes of something creative in a day, you've blocked it in and you've planted the seeds for more creativity to come. So trying not to put so much pressure on myself, and that's important both in personal life and in a job like this. I mean, when we're trying to move this many people here and this many functions, it's not all going to happen in one day. So I think that's really something that my current work in the FBI has helped me realize in my personal life too. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes of a creative writing block time and I get nothing more than one sentence, that could be the seed for something amazing.
I love that. Do you use any sort of prompts or anything like that to kind of just let you, it's not like it's not a planned kind of exercise?
Yeah, sometimes. I do sometimes get inspiration from Pinterest and Instagram, getting, little journal prompts there, but I will often record my own prompts as they come to me. So I have a portion in my notebook that's writing ideas, and then I'll return back to them later. And I just put up a 7-foot-long whiteboard in my office at home, so some of it goes up there as well. So I think for me, again, it's back to the clean, right? I've put the idea away in the drawer that it goes in, and when I'm ready to take it out and use it, I know which drawer to go in and look for it.
I love that. This may sound weird, but can you give me an example of what one of those thoughts maybe that come to mind?
So yesterday I wrote a poem all about, and I'm loosely using the term poem. I don't think I've ever written a poem before, and I'm not a poet, but it was all about kind of thinking about the value proposition that you provide as a human and how to overcome if somebody doesn't want to buy what you're selling, was sort of the way I put it in. So I had this idea based on something that happened last week, and then bucketed the idea. And then yesterday I got up at 5, like I always do. I do that on the weekends too. And just kind of started to noodle on it and write. And I do a lot better writing when I'm working with my hands too. I don't know, this is something for the other writers out there. I would love to know how people do this, but for a while I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get the computer out and start typing immediately. And I think there was just something visceral for me that was missing. So had my pen and my paper, and before I knew it, I had a
interesting
little poem thing.
Yeah. I love it.
I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but
it might, and you'll reflect on those things often, right? And kind of go back and then maybe just let them take you somewhere else. You never know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But usually it's quick little phrases. So that's how I did the ceilings piece. Okay. Somebody said something to me. We create our own ceilings. That was from somebody that I know, and I wrote that down and then went back to it later. And before I knew it, had some stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned during that segment, if you will. I'm not sure what we'll call it, but you talked about being a conqueror,
Mhm.
which I love that word. And
Yeah.
I'm like, when I think of what it means to be a conqueror, there's a lot of visions that come to mind with that. But share with us what that means to you.
That's funny. That's been a bit of a divisive word. One of my best friends, when he read it, he was like, "Oh, conquer. That's got such a negative connotation. That's terrible."
It's
And
not
I'm
the
like,
opposite.
dude, I'm gonna go with it. I think it's good. But I'm really into fashion, and I'm always on these weird kicks. So we were talking about right now how I'm obsessed with Alabama sorority culture. One of my other obsessions right now is the military, reading a lot about the Army. Feel like I'm going to take like a vacation to Fort Bragg. I don't know if people really do that.
I don't think people do
People
that.
don't do that.
No, they don't
Maybe
do
I
that.
will. But I think when I think about conqueror, like a lot of it gets back to that militaristic, the fashion that they wear, if we can call it fashion in the military, but just the pomp and the circumstance and kind of that visual that gets put on it. I think it lends some weight and some respect to things when we put that whole idea of what people are wearing. And when I picture conqueror, maybe there's like a helmet, or there are medals and sashes, and that's what that means to me. And for me, conquering isn't what my friend thought, like we're going and we're mowing down all the trees and whatever. It really means you're coming into a place and you're integrating with the culture that's there, but you're also building up something new and better, which again, back to the FBI, that's really part of what we're doing right now. We're integrating into this wonderful, amazing ecosystem that Huntsville is, and adding our own elements to the ecosystem.
And overcoming little challenges along the way, right? Not necessarily, plowing through them, but facing them, addressing them, and working through them.
Exactly.
So,
the peaceful conqueror.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Tell your friend that. The peaceful conqueror. I get that though, because it does have a negative cononnation, or can to some, which is interesting. So that kind of leads me to my next little segue. So you, and the team has heard me talk a lot about this, about perspective. You've got a lot of unique perspective that you bring to this particular role, not only as a mom, but as a female, and just as someone who has sort of worked your way up. What sounds like maybe not having necessarily this set agenda. I think when you look back at a lot of younger individuals in their career, they kind of have this path, like I'm going to take this path and I'm going to go on this. You didn't seem to really have that.
Yeah, I have no plan. The plan is no plan.
The plan is no plan.
I mean, the only plan that I ever had was I wanted to do something with humans who were going through times of change and transition. Yeah. I'm here now. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know that a move to Huntsville, Alabama was going to bring it, but I talk about this all the time with people. I had reached the apex of my career, arguably in that SCS role, the Senior Executive Services, very young woman with young children doing that job. And the whole pivot out to do change and transition was completely led by me, and people thought I was crazy to do it. But that is the only real plan that I've ever had. I knew I wanted to do something like that just involved interfacing with humans and helping them figure out difficult things.
Yeah. And that's sort of your mantra for the rest of your life, right? I mean, just sort of keep an open mind and focus on, bringing solutions to challenges, right? And working with people in the midst of that.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So the perspective that you've had throughout your career has come in a variety of different environments, whether it was good experiences, bad experiences, challenging things with change. You've openly talked about some of those personal challenges that you faced, and I would love to talk about them if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
But one of the very first times that I had a chance to listen to you speak was at Greater Leadership's Huntsville's flagship retreat, which was amazing, and just to kind of set the tone a little bit. And I would imagine a lot of people who go through leadership maybe feel this way, but I legitimately walked into that room of 53 other people, and I asked myself, like, I do not belong here. I did not belong there at all. And I thought I was in the wrong room. I thought maybe I was around the wrong group. I thought I just did not feel like I fit in any capacity, just looking around at these people. And so, of course, it's just massive intimidation to no end. And then we have our series of speakers who, to me, are even more so elevated in intimidation of like, holy cow, well, if this kind of person can be speaking to all of these people who I personally was intimidated by, just the intimidation factor just continues to compound. And one of those speakers was you, and you talked about just your career and your background, a little bit of personal things about you, but you talked about openly having an eating disorder in your career, or as as part of your career. And to me, as a woman sitting in the back of the room, I was in the farthest table away because again, intimidation factor, didn't belong here. To me, that was one of the most inspiring moments that, again, I think a lot of people look at someone like yourself and holy cow, you are in this prestigious role where you are overseeing and managing, billions of dollars in funding and working with all of these people. And of course, I guess you maybe have this mindset of what that journey looked like that got you to that point.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily peppered with emotional, raw, challenging experiences that a lot of people face on a daily basis. So I think number one, my takeaway from that was you are a conqueror and you are someone who is able to sort of carry that light in a way that impresses upon people, something that just forever changes their path, if I'm being honest. I'm not trying to be cheesy here, but being able to speak in a vulnerable sense that inspires others is something that is just, it's an amazing trait to have. And so I would love if you could maybe just talk about that a little bit, because you are very open about some of those personal struggles. And I believe that when you're able to open that gateway with other people, you're able to connect in a deeper level, and you're able to create relationships that are just so much more robust and meaningful, I think, than you can otherwise. And you talking about that really opened up that, just the opportunity to say, we struggle with things, we all do. And but that immediately it kind of broke down that barrier of being able to connect with you, I guess, and being able to understand how you got to where you got to, and also making it a little bit more relative and relevant, I think, that people can connect with, which, without doing that, you're this person who's achieved all these things. And there's not a direct connection there. So I'd love to just, if you're comfortable with it, talk a little bit about that in your career and kind of what you've learned from that. And as a mom, as a woman, as a friend, as a leader, how that's impacted you, and kind of, we'll go from there.
So we all have our stuff, right? And anybody who says they don't have their stuff,
got a big old bag of it, right?
Like, we all have our stuff.
Yeah.
And I, going into giving that speech, I think I gave it twice to leadership. I was kind of like, I don't know if they're going to like this, but I'm going to do what I think is right as a human being. You want to hear a leadership speech, like, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a human being who happens to be a leader, because all of those experiences pave the way for us to get where we are. So the specific part that I talked about in that speech was being at the Grand Canyon when I was kind of at the height of all of this just madness in my brain that manifested itself in an eating disorder, and being so worried when I was at the freaking Grand Canyon about whether or not I looked fat in my outfit that I had on, and just how much I missed because I was so obsessed with this idea in my head. And for me, if you ever want to do a podcast on eating disorders, I would love to be a part of that, because we could go really deep. But I think for me, it was always about, kind of this classic thing, right? Control and sort of putting stuff into a box. I think that's a big part of why my experience manifested the way that it did. But, I think back on that now, and what I talked about in the speech is just, how could I be in this place that is absolutely amazing? I love the Southwest. That's where I want to go after I leave Huntsville. I love Huntsville, but I'm also just very attracted to the energy of the Southwest, and, being at the Grand Canyon in this amazing place and being worried about such a silly thing, but it was just all consuming in my mind. And
were you with your family at this time?
I was with the family of a terrible ex-boyfriend, which was part of the problem. So, being consumed by that, and I think none of it, no challenge ever really goes away. You're not done till you're dead is one thing that I really like to say. We're not done until we're dead. And we've just got to relive and rebuild through these challenges every day. So, that isn't something that I'm actively doing at this point, being in an eating disorder mode, I guess. But every single day, I have something that comes up that just kind of puts me back in that mindset. Yeah. And a 9-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. there is no way that I'm going to continue any of that with those kids.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll do stuff to screw them up, and they're probably
We
writing
all
up
do.
their
We
lists
all
for
do.
therapy right now. But I think that's one thing, and I've read a lot about this, and I'm certainly not an expert on it, but a lot of that is just like repeated in a cycle, and I think about that every single day. How am I not going to do that with my kids? Because it's not just about your body image, but it's about where you're at mentally as well, and just building up your children, trying to be the best that you can. You're probably going to screw them up 26 different ways anyways, but that's
tough
really,
love,
really
though,
important
right?
to me. Tough love.
all those mistakes in parenting too also shows character and shows, there are flaws in everybody, right? And kids need to see that there is no version of perfect that we want them to live up to, right? We want them just to be themselves.
And I think forgiving what got me to that point too, and for any of us, we all have our stuff in life, so trying to show some grace and forgiveness for what got you to that point is really important.
Yeah, that is important. How has that helped you as a leader? How has that helped you change you as a leader?
I think again, it's the grace to people, right? Not everybody is going to be perfect every single day. That's the whole big part of what eating disorders are based on, is this idea of perfection, or the ideal of perfection that is completely unachievable, which is why I got into that cycle, right? So giving other people grace and realizing like, hey, they're not perfect.
Right.
They're going to screw stuff up. Maybe we just,
give them a break a little bit.
Give them a break. We're doing the low bar lifestyle today, like the home edit ladies say, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah. I love the home edit. I keep seeing their stuff all over the place.
And they live in Nashville.
They're too close.
It's close.
Yeah.
Rainbow.
Would that ever be something you'd entertain for them to come in and redo your closets or your pantry or anything like that?
I'm good. I think I have all of their books, and I've embraced their
They're pretty crazy too. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, what are you guys doing when you're not helping to build what the FBI is going to be here in North Alabama? Where can you typically be found now that you're a new resident to North Alabama? We're hopefully past tornado season, not yet. We have a couple more months. But what are you and your family typically doing out and about in Huntsville?
So we love to spend time together as a family. My son is really into video games, so we like to do all of the main event and all that sort of stuff. Big Spring Park is huge for us. Pretty much anything that's happening down there, Panoply, the Lantern Festival. My husband is an artist on the side.
Really?
So we went to Michael's on Saturday and had a big art thing in our house. I hope he'll exhibit someplace. He did do that in DC, and he sold a bunch of stuff up there. But
does he paint or draw? Or
he mostly paints, but drawing as well.
That's awesome.
And our kids are showing some interest in that too. So just really anything that we can do together as a family, hanging out, reading, hanging out on our porch. We love to go swimming, so my kids are really excited for it to get warm.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Just as much time as possible with my family, because it is so fleeting, and we've talked, they'll be gone and out of the house, like your daughter moving to college before you know it. So.
Yes, I know it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, but just so much fun stuff to do in Huntsville. Yellowhammer and Straight Tail, mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I like to go shopping in the little boutiques around town.
Yeah. It's a great area.
Yeah.
It's a great area. Do you have any family that has moved down here in addition to your immediate family?
Yeah. So we're definitely living the classic Huntsville story of, one person moves and other people follow. My mom followed us here, and she's really happy. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, welcome her to Huntsville.
Yeah.
I know. It's a great place to be. Well, Ambrosia, we're so happy that you were able to carve out time today and chat with us. Anything else that you want to bring up at all about you or the FBI or anything?
It's awesome. We're building something that is going to change the world here. It's already changing the world. This is the highlight of my life, truly, minus being married to my husband and raising my children. Being part of this is just,
it's amazing.
It's beyond anything.
And we're going to get hopefully some footage of the facility here, but we pulled these chairs in because walking into this campus, it is not anything, and hopefully I can speak on behalf of the team here, we're not expecting this to look like this. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's all these pops of color and neon, and you got the collision room and all that kind of stuff, and very cool space. So we're very excited and very fortunate that you guys were able to carve out time for us. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me to do this. This was
course.
such a privilege.
You rock.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.